So I want to turn our attention to an issue that really was considered controversial many years ago, up until the passage of Senate Bill 47 last year. Senator Wheeler, you were a part of that effort along with Stephen West of Paris that provided the legalization of medical marijuana. And now this session, it goes a step further by expediting the licensing for these businesses. But it does not expand the number of conditions or the types of conditions that would qualify for medical cannabis. Talk to us about why the move was made this session to expedite the movement to get medical marijuana up and going.
Well, I mean, I think that it's a medicine that, as you know, certain people, I think, has been shown to be effective in. And we want to make sure that that gets in the hands of them as quickly as possible, more importantly, as safely as possible. You know, as far as the conditions are concerned, you know, it was a very difficult bill to get across the finish line at first. So, you know, I think we didn't really want to rock the boat. We wanted to make sure that the program was set up in such a way that you know, we could be ready to roll out in 2025. So, you know, this was, I guess, what we could get past.
Yeah. Representative Pollack, was this a tough vote for you?
Not necessarily. I heard several personal stories about medical cannabis, what it did to people's families. This bill that we did pass here was tighten up the dispensing part of things, and not necessarily be on every corner of every street in all of our communities. So I like that part of it. I'm be honest with you, I wish it would have stepped a little further and provided the pharmacies in there as well, because it is medical cannabis. And so obviously that part of it didn't go through. But you know what? Like Senator Wheeler said, you know, whatever we do, is important to make sure that we help our families, provide them the tools, and obviously this part of it would be good for them.
And the guardrails are there for cities and counties to decide via like a wet, dry vote whether or not they want these businesses there. Of course, they have to act on that pretty quickly, and also for schools as well if they object to having that. That's your concern? Because I heard you speak about that.
Absolutely, that was one of my concerns as we were seeing different versions, committee subs coming back before us. Which school districts are, when they opt in, how are they allowed to opt in? And then was there going to be an individualized approach to where if a school had opted in, could people still opt out from administering to a child? And that was really concerning to me, especially if a child had qualified for medical cannabis and been given the card and that was seen as their health care, to then just be denied because someone in the school building was not willing to administer it was deeply concerning. Of course, what I think ultimately the legislation ended on for final passage was to allow for that training to occur within schools. So if a school still opts out, then that will, you know, those policies remain to where, you know, students will not be able to enroll. But there was a lot of conversation for if schools could deny access to a student based on them having that medical cannabis card, and that was deeply concerning to me.
Senator Cassie?
Yeah, so
sure.
I shared many of the concerns that were voiced, that initially the bill was going to be a way to create barriers to people accessing medical cannabis. We know that medical cannabis is very popular. Kentuckians are in favor of it. Quite frankly, it took us too long to pass it, but now we have passed it. I was worried that we were taking a step back. I was really glad to see, quite frankly, a lot of constituents, people across the Commonwealth said, hey, we think that we're headed in the right direction. Please don't take us down a different path. And at the end of the day, I think the final bill was something that we could all live with.
Yeah. Any other comment on that before we ask a general process question here?
I will just say,
yes.
The last point I would make is that we do have the most restrictive medical cannabis law in the country, and that the laws that we passed this session just made it more restrictive.
Yeah, and some groups who are for the expansion of medical cannabis said as much. Why was there not any sentiment, Senator Wheeler, to expand the list of conditions that would be qualifying for medical cannabis?
Not that I heard, honestly, but you know, as is often said, we'll be back in 9 months. It'll be a new session, and you know, I think another opportunity to serve the citizens of the Commonwealth.
Yes.
I agreed with my friend Senator Wheeler before. I'm going to disagree this time. I actually did hear from a lot of folks who said, here's some other evidence-based conditions that I hope that you look at. I hope that as you consider ways to revise the statute in the future, you consider these. And so, you know, I trust the medical doctors. I trust the medical evidence. I think that there are things we need to look at in the future, and I hope we can have those bipartisan conversations.